writing, and I haven't been waiting for a response. I've actually been waiting for validation, you know? I've been waiting for somebody to say, you know, you've got great writing capability, what you've got to offer is brilliant, you matter, your story matters, your journey matters, these other women's stories who were within this book, their stories matter.
Drive. So what I started to do, I started to just like buy and sell domain names when the internet was like literally you had to plug it into your wall. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's so easy because you're chasing this dream and this vision that you have, and to feel as though you need to be working all hours of the day. And yes, there are some days where you need to push yourself that little bit harder, but you really need, if you haven't got your health and your well-being, you haven't got any business. So
hello and welcome back to another She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories interview, where I interview phenomenal women from the world of business. As usual, as I say every week, if you haven't already done so, please make sure you click that subscribe or follow button so that you get notifications to remind you when I am releasing a new interview. And if you're not already following on social media, please get on over to Instagram and Twitter and follow at She's the Boss INTL. If you're on Facebook, Daniella Genas, She's the Boss. And also I'm on LinkedIn. So if you're interested in connecting on LinkedIn, please search Daniella Genas. Today, I am joined by Esther Bangura, who is the founder of Boss of My Money. Esther, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Daniella. Thank you so much for having me.
So obviously, I have a particular affinity to the word boss. So I love your business name. Tell us more about what Boss of My Money does.
So Boss of My Money is a financial platform. So I basically help mainly women to manage their personal finances. And that looks more at the day-to-day management of personal finances. I help them to create budgets. I help them to create financial goals. I help them to understand their spending habits and help them to really understand how to save money and how to free up money so that they can invest for their future. I particularly look at the psychology of personal finance. So the world of personal finance is really broad. You have investing and you have business, like it's so broad. I mainly look at personal finances in relation to psychology, so how we behave with our money. And so a lot of people go straight into the numbers when it comes to finance, but I look at, you know, the behavior, because it's more about the behavior than it is about the numbers.
Mm-hmm. I completely and 100% agree with that. In my interview that I did a couple of weeks ago with Ron K. Lowell, we were discussing this idea of working class guilt. So that when you move out of the working class into a more kind of middle class, I suppose, classification,
yeah,
we both were saying that we sometimes find it uncomfortable spending large amounts on specific items because we're used to having to watch our money. But then also sometimes on the opposite, spend frivolously because we're used to not having money. So I think starting with the psychology is definitely a great place to start, because I know for me, numbers wise, I'm fantastic at managing money. But on a psychological level, I'm not. And I have an aversion sometimes to even looking at it, because I'm like, oh, what if there's not enough money in there? And I still have that fear of when I didn't used to have money before. So tell us a little bit more about your journey into starting the business. Where did you get an interest in helping people manage their finances? When did you decide that you wanted to turn this into a business, and what was the process that you followed?
So it started when I decided to change careers. So I've worked for TfL. I've been with them for 12 years and I still work for them. And I worked as a customer service manager, and I really enjoyed my role, but I wanted a change, and I wanted something that had like better work-life balance, because I did shift for a number of years and I was like, you know, I want to have that balance. So I decided to career change, and I went part-time. And I decided to go and study for a bit, and I didn't plan it. I just thought, okay, you know I'm going to lose money, but I'll just make a few cuts here and there. It won't be a big deal. I'll just stop going to Costco and I just won't eat out as much. So I had this plan in my head, and it wasn't until I went part-time and I realized that, oh my gosh, I've lost 55% of my income. And then I realized that I was £800 short every month and I couldn't pay all of my bills. And that was my wake-up call. I then realized how much I was wasting what I was earning. So the issue wasn't that I wasn't earning enough money. I just wasn't managing what I was earning to the point where I had no clue of where I was financially. So that became my wake-up call. So then the course that I went to do, I didn't particularly enjoy it, but it was all part of me sort of learning my purpose and learning more about myself and what I actually wanted to do. And so a friend of mine sent me this video of this lady in America who saved $100,000 and who is a financial expert. And I watched the video, and next thing I knew, I signed up to her 6 months accountability program. It's actually a platform called Clever Girl Finance. And I was just, you've heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And I was just so desperate and I needed help, and I couldn't find any platform in the UK. And you'd think that for someone who was £800 short every month, how could I afford to even sign up to the program? And at the time, the program was like £15 a month, but I knew it was an investment that I had to make in myself. Mm-hmm. And I was ashamed of where I was financially. I felt really bad. I felt guilty. I didn't realize I had so much debt, because you're just used to sort of making payments because you can. And then when you're not able to make those payments, you realize, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? So I signed up for this program, and I literally just went head on. I was like, it's either now or it's never. You know, you think that after finishing uni, you learn how to manage your finances. And then you think, okay, once I get my first job, you know, right now I'm not earning a lot. I'm a broke student. You get the first job, you're not managing your finances. And then you say, oh, if only I could earn £300 more. You earn the £300 more, and it's still not enough. And then you're like, when I get married, because then there's two income, I'll get this figured out. You get married and it's still the same thing. So at that point, I realized it was just now or never. And I also realized that I had all these dreams, all these aspirations that I wanted to achieve, and they were all tied to how I manage my finances. So I signed up for the program, and I took it so serious. And in that, I began to make changes in how I was managing my finances. I budgeted, I contacted all my creditors and negotiated, and I was helping a lot of the women on the platform as well. So as much as I was, you know, taking it all in, I was also helping the other women on the platform. And then I decided that, you know what, in my circle of influence, we don't talk about money. We talk about our husbands, we talk about church, family life, we talk about Netflix, and we talk about everything else but money. And I really wanted to change that within my immediate circle. So I just became very open about my journey. You know, I told my friends and family, don't invite me anywhere. No one's getting any gifts from me for at least the next 2-3 years, or until I pay off my debts. I just became very vocal and open about where I was in my situation. And I found that set other people free, because they were able to say, actually, you know what, you're right. Because if you're in debt and you've already what you're earning isn't enough, you're not able to afford this trip for my birthday. Can I even really afford it? You know, so me just sharing my journey and being open to my immediate circle of influence, I found people asking me more questions and asking about my progress. And so I decided to start blogging in order to share more of my journey to more people. And I had actually approached the founder of Clever Girl Finance. I said, you know, you've inspired me so much, and I've gotten a lot of results from your program. I want to share it with the world. I want to help other women to start thinking about their finances. And just to know that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can start now. You're never too late to start. You're only late if you don't start right now. And so she encouraged me, and she was like, yeah, you know, start blogging. And she gave me some tips. And she also said, you know what, I'm actually looking to hire someone. So she was hiring at the time, and she was looking for someone to take over the customer element of her business. And she decided to offer me a role. And I was so ecstatic, I took on the role. So I freelance for Clever Girl Finance as a customer service manager. And I also blog and help women in the UK with managing their finances. I could go on and on, so I'll stop there.
No, I love it. I love it, because I feel like now I really am invested in the journey that you followed, and I love that. And in terms of being quite vocal, I think that's a lot of the time what we're scared of. We feel that we have to go to the birthday parties, we have to buy the birthday presents, or we're going to be looked at unfavorably by those in our circle. But actually, it's better that we put ourselves in a good financial position. So sometimes it's important that you stand up and say, actually, guys, this is what I'm trying to focus on financially, so I can't participate. It's not something that I've ever been able to do, but you've just inspired me. Actually, it's not everything that, well, now we can't go anywhere, but when we could, there was nothing that could happen without me being there, because I just wanted to be everywhere. But it's, yeah, you make a good point. If our finances need some TLC, then actually sometimes it's better to not go. And those that care about you and love you should understand that.
Yeah. And it's not an easy thing to do. Like, it was hard for me to do, but I really just had to prioritize. And I'm a big giver. So like yourself, I want to be there. I like celebrating. I enjoy being with people, you know, going out and enjoying and having that experience. And it costs money. And it was really hard for me to do, but it also forced me to become creative. So for example, like if my friend was traveling for her birthday and I couldn't go, I'd be like, so I can't afford to go, but I'll help you pack. I'll put £10 petrol and drive you to the airport. You know, what is it that you need? I'm popping out. So I found other ways to still be involved in my friends and family's life without it breaking the bank or it impacting my financial goals. And I also just told them this is short term. And so the quicker I'm able to get my house in order, you know, I can forever go with you on travel dates and we can forever explore the world. But I think we tend to just postpone that. And actually, if we all just took a moment and got our house in order, then we could say yes forever, you know. So I always say, you know, say no now so that you can say yes always.
Yeah, I love that. I love that as a phrase. That's wonderful. So we can't ignore the elephant in the room. COVID-19 has got us all on lockdown. How has it impacted your business? Have you been able to kind of ride the wave, or has it really had an impact? And how is it impacting the people that you work with, more importantly? What kind of advice are you giving to them?
Yeah. So my business is like, when you think of startup, my business is like startup. I'm very much at the beginning, although I launched Boss of My Money 2 years now, coming up to 2 years. I still see myself as fresh. I still see myself as just on that journey, figuring out my business, my branding, you know, the people that I'm here to serve, my customer types. And so in terms of, like, I'm not making a huge profit from my business at the moment. It's just barely sustaining itself. So I offer budgeting sessions with people. But since COVID, I've actually made that free for a period of time where people can schedule a 30 minutes just call with me, because I find that right now it's a state of confusion. People are confused, people are worried, they're scared. They know they need to take action, but they're not sure where to start with. So I'm offering like a 30-minute free call just to have that conversation, you know, just to see, okay, where are you? What should you be focusing on? Okay, these are the resources that are available. And I think it's even impacted me. So I work full time. I have a side hustle, you know, with Clever Girl Finance, and I also run the budgeting sessions, so I have like several income streams. My husband contracts, and so his work is on hold at the moment. And so thank God that I was able to focus on becoming debt free the whole of last year. So since October 2019, we're completely debt free. And yay! And, you know, by achieving that, and then our next sort of goal was just throwing every money we had into savings. It means that now that this has happened, although we've lost income, actually we can still pay our bills. So whereas, you know, 2 years ago when I was £800 short every month and I couldn't afford my bills because I didn't have savings, now it's like, although there's a shortfall in the income, we have money aside that we can, you know, take from to help us to stay afloat. I think for everyone out there, the people that I've spoken to, people are confused. People feel guilty. They feel ashamed. They're upset with themselves because, oh my gosh, I should have been saving. and oh my gosh, I made this big purchase just before COVID. And so the first thing I say to people is just let go of the guilt. Acknowledge where you are with your finances, acknowledge the state that it's in, but just now's not the time to blame yourself because it's unproductive. Own it and just be like, something, I could have done better with my finances. I could have had a lot more savings than I have now. That big purchase that I made, it wasn't really necessarily. Own it and accept it, but then now look at what can you do? What resources do you have that you can tap into? What can you cut down? And that's the first place I usually encourage people to start is, okay, just capture all of your expenses, list down all the money that's coming in, what you expect to come in over the next few months, and list down everything that you spend money on. Go through your bank statements and just list everything down and know what that number is. And then from that, start to break it down and see, okay, what do I need? What is essential right now in this moment? You need a roof over your head. You need gas and electric. You need food. We can't go anywhere anyway. In this state, we need internet. You need to be able to communicate with the outside world, so your phone needs to stay on, your internet needs to be on. And so just look at the essentials and then see what is it that I don't need. And a lot of it can be a permanent cut, and some of it is just temporary, just until things get back to normal, you can add those things again. But what is it that you don't need? So, for example, I've cancelled my gym membership. Can't go to the gym, I've cancelled it. I had a few good to have subscriptions. The fact that I've got a shortfall in income, I don't need those subscriptions. I've kept things like my Netflix, I've kept that. I've kept my Oprah magazine subscription just to be able to tune out from the news and all the, the bad news that's going on. So I've kept things that are going to help me, in this moment. And we did our budget just last week, and I've been able to save about £300-400 just by looking, at, okay, what do I have? What do I not need right now? My husband and I, we pay ourselves a fun pot every month. And so even that, we've taken a sacrifice to say, okay, let's reduce our fund pot. Where we would pay each other £150 a month, we're now paying ourselves £50 a month, because we're like, actually, by paying ourselves less, it means that we're taking less from our savings. We want to have more in our savings. And so we could just still blow £150, but what am I going to do? I can't go and have my facials. I can buy clothes all day long, online, but I can't wear it anywhere. So, at least that £50, I've been using to just buy things that will help me be productive at home. So I bought a board game for us to be able to play and just have in-house date nights and to just switch off from everything, and just little things that I think I might need in the house. I love stationery things and pens and notebooks. So I think just looking at your condition, understanding where you are, understanding what you have, what your expenses are, looking at what you can cut down. And sometimes you've cut so much, there's no more to cut. You just don't have enough for all the expenses, and so if you're in that position, then what I have been advising people is to contact your creditors, get on the phone, call every single one of them, do your budget so that when you call them, they know that you know what you're talking about. And I found that even a year and a half ago, when I was £800 short, these are things that I did. And so I know that they work. So I did my budget. I knew what I had. I knew what my priority bills were. I knew what I had left. So when I picked up the phone and said, look, this is my income. These are my expenses. This is what I'm paying towards my council tax, my rent, my utility bills. This is how much I have left. These are all the other people I'm paying. So this is how much I can give you. And so when you come with that confidence and you know what you're talking about, they don't, they're in a place to help you because they know that you've done the homework, you've come prepared. And so when, 1 year and a half ago, I could only afford to pay £30 on 8 different debts that I had. That's all I could afford to pay. And so I had that agreement in place where I was paying the minimum. So rather than you just they send the bill and you pay whatever you want and you know it's lower than the minimum, what's going to happen is you're going to get charged, right? So there's going to be an add-on fee to that bill. And so it's going to cost you more to pay. But if you have that agreement in place, then things like the charges can be put on hold. They could give you a 2-3 month breather. So don't avoid getting on the phone and speaking to your creditors. It's important that you engage with them. It's important that they know your situation. And in the current state of affairs, they know what's happening. They're expecting people to be late with their bills, but actually they would appreciate it more if you make that contact with them so that they can have an agreement in place.
Yeah, I think that's all invaluable advice. And I think sometimes we can have a tendency when money situations get a bit scary to just put our head in the sand and try to ignore it. And actually, the more you do that, the bigger the problem becomes, and then the bigger the stress becomes, then you continue to ignore it. Whereas actually, if you face it head on, you can kind of head off some of those problems before they even arise. So I think that's really useful advice.
And I've found that by calling creditors, you know, if you get somebody really nice on the phone, they would discount you. They'll be like, okay, you know what, just make this payment and then we'll call it quits, or we'll give you a 2-month breather. They can be so helpful. There's been times where I've called, and if they're not helpful, I just put the phone down, call again in an hour. Like, I wait until I get someone on the line that's going to help me and improve my situation.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. So you mentioned, obviously, you've got a husband. How important has his support been in terms of you launching Boss of My Money and pursuing your business ventures?
I think like my husband's very supportive anyway, and I think it was like a no-brainer. I've always had that like entrepreneurship kind of spirit drive in me. I used to be a mobile hairdresser, so I had my own hair business where I had like a mini salon in my house, and I also went to people's homes to do their hair. Like, I had the full kit, the wash basin, everything, you know, with me, and I did that for a number of years. Something that I really enjoyed as well. But then because I braided so much, I started to get pains in my hands. And so I had to kind of reconsider that business. And then I ran an online music entertainment company, a Sierra Leonean music platform, which allowed musicians to have their music online so that people could purchase them. And I did publishing for like some of our biggest musicians in Sierra Leone. I did business management. I helped to record their music and music videos. And so I've always had that in me. And so I'm also the kind of person, I like to share what I've learned. If I've used something or been somewhere and it's helped me, I want to tell the whole world. And so it was very natural. You know, he saw it as something very natural, and he was very, very supportive. And obviously, like, my finance journey is our journey as well. So, but I tend to just share more of me and what we do. But I also work with couples as well and share how we manage finances together. So he's very supportive. He is very supportive with it.
I think that's so important. And I speak to people fairly frequently who are in relationships or who are married, who are able to thrive in business because their other half supports what they do. But then similarly, I speak to people whose other half doesn't support what they want to do. And that can really, I suppose, stifle their progress. So I always love to hear about supportive husbands and the impact that can make. You mentioned Sierra Leone. Is that is that where you're from? Tell us a little bit more about that. How were you born here, or were you born there?
So I was born in Sierra Leone, and I came over when I was 6.5, so like in the early 90s. Absolutely loved there. I met my husband there on holiday. I've not been for a while. I think it's the last time I went was like in 2012. Absolutely beautiful country, and I can't wait to go back once all of this is over.
How much of your kind of entrepreneurial spirit do you contribute, or do you believe has been attributed because of your culture and your cultural upbringing? Because I always find that people that come from specific countries in Africa or the Caribbean or Southeast Asia, because there's a kind of a hustling mentality there anyway, they tend to take some of that kind of entrepreneurial mindset from their cultural upbringing. Would you agree that's the case for yourself?
Certainly. And like, just looking at my mum, because we learn, you learn first at home, isn't it, whether good or bad. And my mum's always had that hustle like mentality, and she's been involved in different businesses, so I've grown up seeing that. And I just think as well, just as a Black woman, it's just in me. Like, I'm not sure whether it's connected to where I'm from, but I think as well it's just in me. I just have that drive for growth, for development, and for helping people, and I think I definitely get it from my mum as well.
What would you say is the most rewarding thing about what you do? What's been, like, can you share some of your success stories?
I think it's been, so I love to see growth and development. So I like it when someone comes with a problem, and then that whole process of getting from the problem to the solution. I love to just see that unfold, and to be a part of that, and to see how people grow and develop. And I think for me, it's just, there's so many different stories. Like, I can't think of one right now, but I think it's, when it comes to finances and the people that I've worked with, it's just seeing them come to that realization that actually you can do this, and you can have more than what you have, and actually you can take control of your finances, so that it can work for you. So a lot of the time, our issue isn't that we don't have money. A lot of us are fortunate to be in jobs, and we're earning a salary, and we earn a decent amount. But at the end of the day, at the end of the month, when we look at our money, it's like it's not really working for us. So for me, it's just seeing people come to themselves, and that realization that actually I can do more with this. And when they make up their mind to go on the journey, and the journey is not an exciting one, it's not always exciting. It's not always straightforward. It doesn't happen like this. Your debt don't get paid in a month. It took me, 22 months to pay off £18,000 worth of debt, and that took time. It took sacrifice. It took commitment. And there was times I was like, what the heck, all I'm doing is paying bills and paying debt. No one else is doing it. My friends are out there having fun, but I had to stay committed to the journey. So seeing them just commit to the journey, and those small wins that they get, it all adds up. When I explained the concept of having a fun pot to one of my friends, because she was like, I get all this money and I just don't know where it goes. And I said, do you have a fun pot? Because the only way to control your spending is by just having it separate. So that this is how much I have to enjoy, then that way you can allocate the rest of your money to other things. So for me, it's just seeing those small wins, because I'm not for just always the big wins. Oh, someone's just saved £10,000. It's, oh my goodness, you've been able to go from not saving to now you've saved £50 like every month for the past 10 months. That's amazing, because guess what? That person is now going to be able to save £100, £200. And the fact that they're consistent, that's something that's going to go well for them in the long term. Because when it comes to personal finances, and when it comes to what I teach, I'm not just looking for a destination. This is a lifestyle. This is behavioral change, that you're not just changing yourself, but you're also changing your generation and your family and your children. You're passing on those financial principles to them.
No, for sure.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And it's your passion for the cause really comes through. I love that, particularly when you're talking about, I suppose it's the legacy, right? If you learn to manage your finances effectively, then the idea is then you will teach your children to do the same, who will teach their children to do the same. And I think a lot of the time our kind of negative association with managing finances, or our inability to do so, stems from our parents not being able to do it, or not telling us how to do it, and kind of just leaving us to our own devices. So I think you're making a really good point about the legacy of what you do. What would you say has been an area that's been challenging for you? Is there a specific area in business that you really kind of find difficult?
I think when it comes to being an entrepreneur, for me, it's definitely been managing my time, because I work full time and I freelance part time, and I'm also trying to run Boss of My Money. I'm a wife. I have like commitments in church, and I have friends, and I have family, and then I just want to be by myself sometimes. So just trying to fit all of that into a 24-hour day, I find really challenging, and it's something that I've realized that I need to get a hold of, because in order for me to be productive and to show up and be my best for the people that I serve, I need to be able to juggle everything and have a balance to that. So definitely time management and having a balance has been a challenge for me, and it's something that I'm still working on. I remember when I started to work for Clever Girl Finance, and the founder Bola, she is a mother and she's running like an entire business, and I'm just like, how do you do it? Because I don't even have kids and I'm struggling. Like, you have kids that you have to look after, and so it's not easy. Like, and I guess for everybody it's different because we all work in different ways. And so just really understanding what time management means for me, and what can I say yes to, and what do I need to let go of? What are the things that I can realistically do? What are the things that I can outsource? And I think as well, just being a startup, you see what everybody else is doing and you're like, oh, I want to do that, or I can do that. That looks really easy, and you almost have like this FOMO, fear of missing out, because you see other people in your niche that are doing things and making progress, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. And so for me, it's just being realistic about, okay, I could do that, but should I do that?
Yeah.
Just because I can doesn't mean that I should. How is it going to benefit me? And does this sit with my business plan? And does this sit with what my market needs and what they want? And it's an ongoing battle. And so I would say that I've had a fairly slow start in my business. Like, I'm really taking my time with it because I want to get it right. And having, run a mobile hairdressing business and an online entertainment business, like, I know how much work is involved, and it's very easy to like start buying these tools and products and services, and you're throwing money at all these things that are just not needed for your business. So I'm really just trying to understand who I am as an entrepreneur, and to grow into that.
Yeah, I think recognizing where you should spend your money, that's going to help you move your business forward, as opposed to just spending it because it's something to spend your money on, is really important. In terms of your hair business, because obviously, and even your entertainment business, because you've done so many different kind of very diverse things, what would you say has been the biggest difference between what you do now and what you've done in the previous businesses? Like, is this an easier business to manage than the other two?
I would say yes, because with hairdressing, you have to invest in like tools, you have to invest in products. But whereas with what I'm doing with Boss of My Money, it's mainly content creation. So, but then I need tools in order to do that. So I use different tools like Canva, Asana to help me time manage, and I use a lot of editing software to help me edit videos and like podcast audios, and I'm investing in a website. So I think it's just more tools, online tools that I have to invest in. But I would say it hasn't cost as much to start up Boss of My Money as it did as a hairdresser, depending on what type of service you do as a hairdresser. I did everything. So someone who plats, all you need is a comb, hair grease, and yourself, and the hair extensions and a comfortable chair. But if you relax, or you do roller setting, or you do extensions, there's all these other tools that you need to invest in. So, and I think like having run all those different businesses has really helped me to just not throw money. So I've spent money where it's needed, as you've mentioned, in Boss of My Money. But yeah, and this is more of an online. So although I actually enjoy face-to-face. So before COVID, I ran my budgeting sessions face-to-face, and I prefer them that way. But I've had to look at being able to offer my services in a different way. So there are people who live far that can't necessarily come to me. So I've had to kind of look at, okay, how can I still provide a valuable workshop online and do it video? So yeah.
I think that like there's great value in face to face, but I also love doing things online. I just think it's so, as long as the internet works, of course.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I can add so much more value online just because I don't have to travel. So it cuts the travel bit out, which means normally I'm starting and I'm not flustered from trying to find parking or because the train was late. So sometimes I think that the internet can work much better. And in terms of accessing audiences, particularly for now, I think if you provide an online service, particularly around workshops or anything that's kind of session based, now is a great time to take advantage of the captive audience. And actually sometimes having to come out of your house to go to an event can be a bit of a slog, especially if you've got kids. Whereas now, I have a child who is currently outside in the garden, but it's easier for me to say, okay, I can go to this event at 7:30 because my daughter will be going to bed. Whereas if I had to leave the house, I'd have to wait for my husband to get back and all of that stuff. So I think sometimes, even if you prefer the offline, during this period, I think it's really important to try and take advantage of the fact that there is more of a captive audience available to receive what it is that you're offering.
Yeah.
What would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned along the journey, and taking into consideration the hair business and the other businesses that you've run?
I would say it's important to be clear about what it is that you're trying to achieve and who it is that you're trying to help, just to have like clarity around that, because there's like a lot of distractions and there's like a lot of noise that can distract you from the things that you want to do. So it's important that you're clear about that. And I would also say just having like a business coach or a business mentor. So Bola, who's the founder of Clever Girl Finance, has been like a really good support mechanism and just someone that I can go to and ask questions. So having someone that you can go and ask questions about your business, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the same field as you, but having another entrepreneur who is ahead of you in the game that you can just ask questions and they can share your experience. And I would also say just being a part of some sort of an accountability group. So when I started Boss of My Money, I formed a group called The Bag, which is called a business accountability group. And it's basically with 3 women, and we meet bi-weekly and we set, bi-weekly OKR, goals. And every 2 weeks you have to come basically saying, I've achieved all my goals. And if you didn't, you had to give the reason why, and you get jailed by the other members, and you'd also have to pay a £10 fine. And that really helped me, and that's, I would say like the progress that I've made with Boss of My Money has been because of that, just having that accountability and someone to ask you questions and, to challenge, your ideas and your suggestions. And the group has also helped me to test some of my materials out and to test my content before putting it out there.
Great, that's great advice. 3. So that was really essentially your 3 pieces of advice. If people want
I just
you answered the question. Like you read into the future question I was going to ask. If people want to find out more about you, what platforms can they find you on?
So my website is bossofmymoney.co.uk. I am on Instagram, and that's like the main platform that I'm on at the moment. So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Boss of My Money. I'm also on YouTube as well. But yeah, my website or Instagram is where you can find me.
Thank you. And on your YouTube, are you sharing kind of advice on money management, and is that what your YouTube is about specifically?
So I think I have about 3 videos on YouTube. So I am really scared of doing videos. So I am petrified at doing videos, and I love to talk, but I don't like to get in front of a camera. And it's something that I'm working on. So I tend to have a lot more stuff on Instagram because I can keep it short, snappy, straight to the point, you know. So I have like a few videos on YouTube, but I am planning to do more. I just need to get over this whole thing about being in front of the camera.
Well, I'm going to set you a challenge because we're on here publicly. This is your public accountability.
Yes.
I feel that over the next 4 weeks, you should be able to record at least 2 videos for your YouTube channel. We'll send everybody over to your YouTube, so you don't want people to go there and you don't have too many videos.
Okay, I take on the challenge. I take it on.
I'm going to check back in on the 13th of May to make sure you've actually done it.
I love this. What have I got myself into?
Well, you've done a great interview with me. So in terms of doing long-term video, obviously it's a bit different because I'm asking you the questions, but
yeah,
I personally, it's weird, I actually prefer to do stuff on YouTube than I do on Instagram. So I'm not a fan of doing Instagram lives because it's dead awkward. But pre-recording and being able to edit, I think that's great. And you've done this and been able to come across confidently and eloquently. So you can do it. You just need to get a bit of accountability to force you to.
Thank you so much. And this is probably not part of the interview, but are there any tips that you can give me then for doing?
Oh no, I'm going to leave it in because I think it's important for people. I'm going to leave it in the interview because I think it's important for people to hear. But tips for doing YouTube videos, I always say, is to don't try and read a script, because if you're trying to read a script, you can come across very stiff, and it's clear that you're reading a script. What I tend to do is I create bullet points. So I think about the key points that I want to come across in the YouTube or in the video, bullet them, and then stick the big bullet points on the wall behind the camera or wherever it is that I'm filming, so that I've got something to follow to make sure I don't lose my my place. And practicing just talking. So turning on the camera and actually just going through it and not getting panicked every time I go wrong. Just keep on doing it and recording it. And if that means I've got more editing at the end, so be it. But if you just keep on going, you can get something that's a little bit more natural at the end. I would also always recommend making sure that you're looking at something in particular. So decide what it is that you're going to look at, because some people don't like to look directly into the camera, and I think it always looks better if you do. But if you're not going to look into the camera, find a specific spot to look at. So that might be your bullet points behind. Do that, and then record yourself just looking at the camera, and then you can do some kind of cutaways and stuff, so that there is some sort of engagement. If you really feel uncomfortable, you've got a husband. Ask your husband to sit behind the camera and get him to ask you questions, or just look at him whilst you're talking and speak as though you're speaking to him, and that can make you feel a lot calmer in doing it. But the main thing, and this applies for recording videos, it also applies for public speaking, is just know your subject matter and remember that you know it. And I think that's the key thing. Sometimes we get so flustered, like, oh my gosh, it's a video, or oh my gosh, I have to speak to people. Do you know what you're talking about? Because if I actually, well, you've done it. I said to you, what is it that Boss of My Money does? And you was able to speak about it because you know it. So if you're recording videos, or if you're doing a speaking engagement, make sure that you're doing it on a topic that you know, and then you can't go wrong. So if somebody came and said to me now, in 10 minutes, Daniella, I want you to do a talk about strategy or innovation or, I don't know, risk management, I can do it right now without preparing anything. It might not be as good as if I prepared, but I could get by because I know my subject area, and because I know that I know it. So you know that you know your subject area, so you need to believe it, and therefore when you're speaking, that will come across. So I think they're the main tips that I would definitely give.
Oh, that is brilliant.
I like the way this interview just went.
Thank you so much, because I definitely need to. That's one area that I want to step out in and do more of. And like, those tips are absolutely amazing, because I just, even thinking about videos and being a bit of a perfectionist, I'm like, I need to know what I want to say, and and what you said is just so right. I think it's just remembering that this is you're the subject expert. You know what it is that you're talking about. Just talk. So yeah,
it's better that it's done than it's perfect. That's the other thing. So sometimes, and this is why I don't really love the idea of using a script, because if you're somebody, particularly if you're a perfectionist, what will happen is you will go through this script, and every time you get a word wrong, you'll start again. And then before you know it, you've done it 20 times, and now I'm just over it because I've been going over and over, and I know I'm going to keep getting that word wrong. But every time I get to that word, I'm going to start to get flustered. Whereas if you just use the bullet points and just talk, you can't go wrong, because there's nothing to go wrong about.
Yeah.
I think that's really, it's a really useful way of
doing
it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Worries. You can do it. You've done this. You can definitely do it. Honestly.
Thank you.
You need to feel the fear and do it anyway, as they say.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And making sure, and if you've got editing software as well, then it's even easier. And I'm not saying 100% that sometimes I get a bit, it needs to be perfect. It's not perfect enough. But actually, this COVID-19 thing has really helped me, even just with just doing it and it not needing to be perfect. On my Instagram channel, I've been doing book reviews, and I've been doing those book reviews in one take. Sometimes I'm halfway through and I forget what page I wanted to read and stuff, but it's out there and it's done and I've done it. And I think sometimes that's what you just need.
And they're really good, because I watched the last 2 that you did, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this.
Thanks. I've got a pile of books here. When we're finished, I'm about to do another 7. So watch this space. But thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed our talk. I'm wishing you every success with your business in the future.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching, for listening. As usual, if there's anything that Esther or myself has said that has resonated with you, please make sure that you click that like button. Please make sure you share in your network. Please write a comment so we know your thoughts. And make sure you subscribe and click that follow button so that you don't miss out on when I release a new video. And head over to YouTube and sign up to subscribe to Esther's YouTube page so that you can check on the 14th of May if she's launched 2 new videos, as she's agreed to do. And I'll be back next Sunday at 8 o'clock with another She's the Boss interview. If you're a woman in business and you would like to get on the platform and be interviewed, please drop me an email to Daniella at she'sthebossintl.com. Catch you next time.